After I was diagnosed with a brain tumor, my wife rushed back overnight from her father's funeral just to perform surgery on me immediately. I was deeply moved until during the craniotomy, I regained consciousness from the severe pain and heard her conversation with her assistant. Professor Zhao, the master's brain is perfectly healthy. Do you really want to remove his precentral gyrus? Once removed, his right hand will be crippled. He won't be able to hold a scalpel or work as an ophthalmologist anymore. My wife replied firmly, cut it. The person who examined him was Nie Cheng. If we don't cut, how can we cover up Nie Cheng's operational error? Nie Cheng is so young. If anyone finds out, he won't be able to get a promotion and his future will be ruined. 3 days ago, during a routine physical examination at work, I was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor. My colleague pointed at the scan and said this lesion was unprecedented, and without immediate surgery, my life could be in danger at any moment. The best neurosurgeon at the hospital is my wife, Zhao, but she was attending her father's funeral in her hometown at that time, and I couldn't disturb her. Without other options, I could only grit my teeth and let the inexperienced associate chief physician perform the surgery. But just before the surgery, my wife rushed back from her travels and took over the scalpel. As it turned out, her trainee Dr. Nie Cheng had secretly informed her of this news. And Nie Cheng was also the trainee who had performed my brain CT scan. As my wife's and my university junior, he was lively, enthusiastic, and conscientious. He would soon be the only one among this batch of trainees who could secure a permanent position. But it seems, Zhao didn't come back for me, but for him. However, the assistant said sharply, haven't you heard what people outside are saying about your master? They're saying he's cruel and selfish, sacrificing his own life just to prevent you from attending your father's funeral. Zhao voice became increasingly heavy. Saying a few words won't kill you. After speaking, without hesitation, she pierced my brain with the laser scalpel in her hand. Excruciating pain accompanied by waves of acrid burning smell, my entire body trembled violently, and I fainted from the sheer agony. The next second, I was forcibly awakened by the stimulation in my brain. This cycle of fainting and waking continued for an unknown duration. When the surgery ended, I completely lost consciousness. When I regained consciousness, I was lying in the intensive care unit, my body drenched in cold sweat. Ignoring the 4-needle in my wrist, I struggled to raise my right hand. But I discovered it was trembling severely, completely beyond my control. It wasn't a dream, it was real. I had just experienced the most terrifying medical accident, intraoperative awareness. Even more horrifying, I heard with my own ears. That Zhao, for Nie Cheng's sake, had deliberately removed healthy regions of my brain. In the process, she destroyed my reputation, one of my hands, and my entire future. Professor Song, you're finally awake. I'll go call Professor Zhao right away. Seeing me open my eyes, the nurse smiled as she helped me sit up. If you didn't wake up soon, Professor Zhao was about to cause a scene. If my wife was half as caring as her, I'd count myself lucky. I've been married to Zhao for 3 years, and I hear similar comments almost every day. Before, I would secretly feel pleased, then pretend to be modest and rack my brain to say a few humble words. Sometimes, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't think of anything wrong with her and could only scratch my head and smile foolishly. But where did the once so good Zhao go? My heart was breaking, and tears unconsciously soaked the bandage on my head. Just then, the door creaked open, and Zhao rushed in with a worried face. Huayuan, how are you feeling? Does your head still hurt? The inhuman agony of intraoperative awareness exploded in my mind. The Zhao before me twisted and distorted, transforming into a man-eating demon. I curled up into a ball, my entire body involuntarily convulsing, becoming increasingly violent. Oh no, it's epilepsy. The most common after-effect following brain surgery, especially since they removed healthy tissue from my brain. Saliva mixed with blood flowed from the corner of my mouth. I desperately tried to wipe it away, but my hands were twisted like chicken claws, completely beyond my control. Zhao also panicked. She immediately stepped forward, trying to put her palm in my mouth to prevent me from biting my tongue. But in the next second, a pained cry came from the doorway of the hospital room. Teacher Zhao, I cut my hand while opening the ampoule. Wah, it hurts so much, and there's so much blood. Zhao palm suddenly withdrew from my lips as she rushed impatiently toward him. How could you be so careless? Nie Cheng, however, curiously observed me as I continued convulsing, breaking into laughter. Grandmaster's drooling. Haha, is he getting senile? Zhao didn't mind. She just lovingly pulled him into her arms. Oh, it's just a minor after-effect, don't worry. The spasms will stop soon. Let me treat your wound first. After saying this, she hurriedly left with Nie Cheng. She didn't notice at all that behind her, my spasms had already led to incontinence. The moment that orange-yellow liquid flowed from my lower body, I felt my dignity and personhood, everything, turn to dust. I don't know how much time passed, but the spasms finally subsided. I struggled to get up from the mess, using all my strength to press the call button. The nurses quickly arrived and were shocked by my condition. They hurriedly lifted me onto a transfer bed to take me to another ward. As they wheeled me past Zhou Lin's office, the door was slightly ajar. In that brief glimpse, I saw Zhou Lin putting Nie Cheng's finger in her mouth, gently sucking on it. While sucking, she was tenderly comforting him about something. Yet it was merely a small cut from an ampoule. I stared blankly at my own fingers, still wearing the wedding ring from me and Zhou Lin. The sweet vows were still in my ears, but someone had broken their promise. I struggled to control my weak right hand, took off that ring, but could no longer hold it. As my hand loosened, the ring fell, hitting the marble floor with a crisp sound, as if announcing the end of something. The medical staff quickly injected me with medication to relieve the epilepsy, and I finally recovered from my undignified state. The first thing I did was call my lawyer cousin. I have two demands. First, divorce. I want all the property. Second, Nie Cheng caused a major medical accident. Zhou Lin deliberately covered it up. I want them to go to prison to atone. But my cousin's words suddenly woke me from the depths of pain. Besides your brief consciousness during surgery, is there any other substantive evidence? I remained silent for a long time. Yes, I had no valid evidence. The medical records had already been altered by Zhou Lin. With her excellent reputation, who would believe my one-sided accusation? My fingers slowly clenched as I spoke, each word filled with anguish. Give me 1 month. I will definitely find evidence. What evidence? A sharp female voice sounded at the doorway of the hospital room. Zhou Lin had come again. After her intimate moment with Nie Cheng, she seemed to be in a good mood. I clenched my teeth, and after a moment, I forced an awkward smile. I was telling my cousin that this surgery is evidence of your love for me. This was just an excuse I made up on the spot, but unexpectedly, Zhou Lin showed an expression of disgust. Her gaze swept over the fine wrinkles at the corners of my eyes and my increasingly thickening waistline. Come on, you're like an old man now. Stop trying to be cute. It's absolutely revolting. I was stunned. In that moment, memories of our college dating days seemed to flash through my mind. At that time, I was a clueless young man. In bed, I would always tease her, gently caressing her. She would make me list proofs of my love for her. One wasn't enough. She wanted hundreds or thousands before she would let me go. How easily an old friend's heart changes. Yet they say it is my heart that's fickle. Zhou Lin clearly read my thoughts from my face, which made her somewhat embarrassed. She quickly coughed twice and changed the subject. Huan, what I mean is, you obviously can't continue working in ophthalmology anymore, so I've already discussed your resignation with your supervisor. From now on, you can be like other men, enjoying the comfort of home as a leisurely house husband. Anyway, I've been promoted now, so I'll take care of supporting the family. I looked at the stranger before me, unable to speak. Once upon a time, she had been so proud that I was a master ophthalmologist. But now, Master, you're not unwilling, are you? Without me noticing when he arrived, Nie Cheng had appeared at my bedside with a group of residents, accusing me. Teacher Zhou skipped her father's funeral for you. That was her biological father. If she can give up her own father, what's wrong with you being a house husband for her? Don't tell me you can't put aside your male pride. Before being an independent man, you should first be a decent human being. His voice was loud enough for the entire corridor to hear, instantly attracting numerous medical staff and patients who began pointing and gossiping about me. And Zhou Lin, the woman who supposedly abandoned her own father for me, was looking at Nie Cheng with admiration and affection as he spoke so righteously. I laughed, a bitter laugh. Fine, I will resign. After all, I would soon divorce Zhou Lin and leave this city. 20 days later, when the wound on my head had mostly healed, I kept my promise and went to the ophthalmology director's office to process my resignation. The director was deeply regretful, lamenting how heaven envied talent, causing me to develop this disease that disabled my right hand. I could no longer hold back my tears. Director, this isn't heaven's doing, but man-made misfortune. I told him everything I had heard during the surgery and asked him for a favor. I know that your relative works in the records department. So, could you ask them to help find the usage records of that CT scanner and my original medical records? I will also try my best to find the hidden surveillance video at home. The director was shocked, examined me for a long time, and after confirming I wasn't lying, solemnly nodded in agreement. Rest assured, I absolutely will not let the person who harmed you go unpunished. Beep, 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 beep. The director's office was on the first floor by the window, and Zhou Lin's car was parked outside. Through the glass, I could see she was impatiently pressing the horn, urging me to get in the car quickly. I took a deep breath, said goodbye to the director, walked out of the building, and habitually opened the passenger door. But I saw Nie Cheng sitting there, giving me an arrogant and provocative smile. In that moment, the world spun around me. For nearly 3 months, she had been suffering from severe motion sickness, and everyone knew that she could only feel better when sitting in the passenger seat. Even our colleagues, when going out, would deliberately leave the driver's seat for me. But Jolin actually. It was heartbreaking, but little did I know, there was more pain to come. After getting out of the car, she stumbled into the bathroom and vomited violently. As she was throwing up, she suddenly felt something was wrong and reached into the cabinet for a pregnancy test. 2 lines. So her vomiting wasn't just motion sickness, but because our work had been so busy, we hadn't been intimate as husband and wife for almost 5 months. She was already pregnant. How many months pregnant are you? 5 months. But her belly clearly wasn't showing, not like a 6-month pregnancy bump. The next day at the hospital, Jolin tossed me an abortion consent form. Sign it. I'm not in a position to have a child right now. But weren't you the one who kept insisting that I give you a child before? I held the consent form, trembling. Why Yuen, don't be so selfish. You're now a cripple, and I still need to support our family. Do you think we can afford to raise a child now? Do you think everyone is like you, not having to work? Those last words felt like a knife stabbing into my heart, making me laugh bitterly. Jolin, why can't I work? Others might not know, but don't you know why? She stood up abruptly. Enough. Just sign the papers already. What more do you want? I have to go now. She hurriedly left with her phone. I sat stunned for a long while, then gathered my things and watched as Jolin went for the abortion. If it was a 5-month-old baby, it would already be formed and moving. A few days later, out of concern as a husband, I still prepared some nutritious soup and brought it to Jolin. The nurse said Dr. Zhao went to the obstetrics department, but when I arrived at the door, there was no one there. Just then, I heard a familiar voice. It was Jolin. It turned out her something to do was being accompanied by Nie Chung to see an obstetrician. This young lady has a corpus luteum rupture. Were you too vigorous in bed? The doctor asked. Nie Chung didn't answer, just grinned, while Jolin blushed and punched his chest. I told you not to accompany me here. Now people are misunderstanding. In such an intimate atmosphere, fortunately, my heart had already died along with my child. She actually got together with another man right after having an abortion. So that's why she was afraid having a child would prevent her from being intimate with her lover. In the following days, I conducted a thorough search at home and finally found the surveillance footage that Jolin had hidden. Meanwhile, the head of the ophthalmology department also delivered the original medical records to me. With everything prepared, I informed my cousin who is a lawyer and then immediately reported it to the police. The police took it very seriously, asking me to wait a moment while they rushed over. 10 minutes later, the doorbell indeed rang. I opened the door, only to see the person I least wanted to see at that moment. Nie Chung. He held his head high, like a proud peacock, with 2 burly men carrying luggage behind him. Seeing my disheveled appearance, a victorious smile appeared on his young and handsome face. Master, I have good news for you. With Professor Zhou's LP, I've successfully been promoted to a permanent position. And there's even better news. Professor Zhou said I can stay at her home from now on. You don't mind, do you? Oh, right, I forgot. You're no longer the renowned eye surgeon. Now you're just a house husband, living off your wife. Professor Zhou is the head of the household now. He really knew how to speak, each word and phrase stabbing into my heart. But I couldn't refute him because what he said was true. Seeing my silence, he gestured for the men to bring in the luggage. Because I'm a light sleeper, throughout these years of marriage, I've always slept in a separate room from Jolin. Nie Chung, knowing his way around, barged into my bedroom with his men and started throwing my things out. I was both angry and anxious. Nie Chung, this is my room. But Nie Chung just smiled. Well, Professor Zhou said it's going to be my room from now on. Anyway, you don't need to work anymore. So what's the need for quiet sleep? Just move to the living room from now on. It'll be more convenient for doing housework. As he spoke, he personally threw out the wedding photo of me and Jolin that was at my bedside. The glass frame shattered with a crash, creating an unbridgeable divide between the 2 brightly smiling people in the photo. Even though my heart had long since died, at this moment, I still felt my blood rushing up and instinctively moved forward to pick up the photo. Just as I bent down, I heard Nie Chung cover his eyes and cry out in shock. It hurts. Master, I already said I'm just staying for a few days. Do you really need to smash the wedding photo and stab my eye with a glass shard? Don't you know how important eyes are for a neurosurgeon like me? My brows furrowed slightly. Before I could understand his intention, someone kicked me hard in the abdomen, sending me falling into the glass fragments. Su Huayuan, you're truly vicious. It was Jolin's voice. She came back. At that moment, I wanted to cry for the youth that she and I had lost. But for some reason, when I opened my mouth, it was wild laughter instead. Good that you're back, I heard my own voice say. Saves the police the trouble of going far to find you. What did you say? Jolin frowned deeply, grabbing my collar in one motion. I just let Nie Chung stay for a couple of days, and you called the police? Let me tell you, Su Huayuan, only my name is on the property deed. This house is my premarital property. I can let whoever I want stay here, and the police will say the same thing. When we got married, I wanted Zhou Lin to feel more secure, so I bought this house before the marriage. I never imagined it would become a boomerang that would hurt me. I watched her rage, then watched as she stood on tiptoe to tenderly blow on Nie Cheng's completely unharmed eyes. At that moment, holding my severely pained abdomen, I found myself laughing uncontrollably. Nie Cheng's EYs were fine. It was I who was blind, having misjudged people. At that moment, someone suddenly knocked on the door. This time, the police had finally arrived. We received a report that Nie Cheng from First People's Hospital made an equipment operation error, causing a serious medical accident and significant damage to hospital property. The head of neurosurgery, Zhou Lin, allegedly concealed this information, causing great harm to patients' health. Dr. Zhou, Dr. Nie, please come with us. What? Zhou Lin struggled to maintain her smile, but her expression was clearly guilty as she instinctively shielded Nie Cheng behind her. Nie Cheng, however, was self-righteous, his eyeballs rolling around nervously as he shouted, "Officers, you have no evidence. How can you casually slander good people like this?" Zhou Lin finally realized what was happening and immediately turned to me, who was being supported and comforted by the police, saying angrily, "Huayuan, what are you trying to do? Everyone knows that to perform your surgery, I even had my father." But before she could finish speaking, I interrupted her. "Zhou Lin, during that surgery, the anesthesia didn't work. I was conscious during the operation, and I've known the truth all along. If you don't believe me, I can repeat every word verbatim." Zhou Lin's face suddenly turned pale. "Conscious during surgery? That must have been incredibly painful. Why didn't you tell me after the operation?" I showed no emotion. "I wanted to tell you, but at that time, you were in the office sucking on Nie Cheng's finger." Zhou Lin's body swayed. "You even know about that?" "Professor Zhou." Nie Cheng became anxious and immediately interrupted Zhou Lin. "Master must have had a nightmare and is talking nonsense. He has no evidence at all. Officers, you can't believe just his side of the story." She was right. Handling a case always requires evidence. I struggled to support myself and handed the evidence bag to the police. "This is the recording from the CT room on the day of my examination. It clearly shows that it was Nie Cheng's operational error that caused the equipment to malfunction and smoke. To escape punishment, in her panic, she grabbed someone else's CT scan and put it in my file folder. After this, she made a phone call, and from her words, it was clear that the person on the other end was Zhou Lin. The latter, despite her father having just died, rushed back overnight, just to replace the surveillance footage before daybreak, to prevent security from discovering any anomalies when checking the monitors the next day. As for this, it's my original medical record, which shows that I underwent tumor marker screening, with the original data being 0. But to make the claim that I had a brain tumor more convincing, Zhou Lin arbitrarily altered the data, creating the false impression that my condition was indeed serious. Moreover, to quickly remove my healthy brain and leave no evidence of the whole matter, she didn't even have me undergo basic examinations, casually filled in a few items, and then pushed me into the operating room. As I spoke eloquently, presenting the evidence one by one, Zhou Lin's face had completely drained of color. Her gaze toward me transformed from panic to bewilderment, and finally, into a statement filled with resentment. "Huayuan, since you knew everything, why couldn't you sacrifice yourself for Nie Cheng's sake? He's still young. His future achievements are limitless. You're already 30, with professional honors piling up, even more than I have. How can you be so greedy? Do you really need to get promoted before me, to be one step ahead of me, to be satisfied?" I looked at her coldly. So these were her true feelings. A husband will always be proud of his wife's achievements, but a wife, apparently, can be jealous of her husband. Just as I was about to speak, Nie Cheng said anxiously, "These evidences only prove that there were indeed errors in this examination, but they can't prove that you don't have a brain tumor. What do you mean I caused a serious medical accident? Don't make false accusations." She was clever indeed. Damaging equipment only means paying compensation, but a medical accident could mean prison time. But I could only remain silent, because I truly couldn't prove that what Zhou Lin had removed was healthy brain tissue. Seeing this, Zhou Lin wiped the sweat from her forehead and breathed a sigh of relief. But before she could completely relax, Assistant Xiao Sun appeared at the doorway. "Officer, I can confirm what Shigong is saying." "You?" Nie Cheng sneered, clearly not taking her seriously. "With just your word, what can you prove?" But Little Sun stood her ground. "Words alone aren't evidence, but I have physical proof." She carefully took out a formalin jar, and floating in the clear solution was a small piece of brain tissue. "This is the precentral gyrus that Professor Zhou cut from Shigong's skull," she said softly. "It should have been disposed of as medical waste immediately, but I kept it privately. Officer, you can send it to a professional institution for examination to see if it is indeed healthy tissue." Faced with irrefutable evidence, Zhou Lin's forehead beaded with sweat as she angrily said, "Little son, have you gone mad? You're my assistant, you'll go to prison too." Little son remained completely calm. "I know. But Professor Zhou, I don't want to be your accomplice anymore." As she spoke, she took out a phone and handed it to Zhou Lin. "There's one more thing I can't hide from you. A few days ago, I found a phone in the stairwell but couldn't locate the owner. Out of curiosity, I accidentally managed to unlock it and discovered it was Nie Cheng's phone." Wait. Nie Cheng, who had been completely calm until now, suddenly became anxious and reached out to grab it, but Zhou Lin was faster and had Aurea. "Do I taken it?" Opening the phone, dense chat records appeared before her eyes. Every line and sentence showed Nie Cheng proudly telling his classmates how he used little tricks to keep Zhou Lin wrapped around his finger. "My education level is low, and I can't compete with other residents at all. If I don't cling to that old woman Zhou Lin, how can I get a permanent position? As for after getting the permanent position, I'll just find some excuse to get rid of her, then go curry favor with the director. That's the benefit of good looks. Brothers, Zhou Lin is really too easy to manipulate. There's no challenge at all. To test her, I want to play a game with her." Haha, the game was a huge success. She really gave up her own father for me, and even performed brain surgery on her husband with her own hands, ruining that old man's life. It's so much fun. Fun. Zhou Lin's hands were shaking, her eyeballs covered with bloodshot veins, looking at the trembling Nie Cheng like a ghost. "Nie Cheng, so from the beginning, it was you who was scheming against me, using me, treating me as a tool and a plaything?" Aye. Nie Cheng backed away in fear. No, it started that way. But later, I really fell in love with you. I sincerely wanted to be your husband." With a crisp slap, Zhou Lin forcefully struck Nie Cheng across the face. "Shut up. What are you? In this life, I, Zhou Lin, have only one husband, and that's Su Huayuan." As she spoke, her face covered in tears, she fell to her knees before me. "I'm sorry, Huayuan, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Please forgive me." I lowered my head, looking at this woman crying bitterly. My heart no longer stirred with any emotion. From the moment she sent me to the operating table, the bond between us had been severed completely. "Zhou Lin," I said softly, "focus on your rehabilitation inside. As for me, after you're imprisoned, I will apply to the judge for marriage annulment." "No, don't." Zhou Lin lunged toward me like a madwoman, but was restrained by the police. She could only call out my name with desperate screams. "Huayuan, we've been married for 7 years. You can't be this heartless, can you? Do you remember when we were in university?" I didn't let her continue. Instead, I calmly raised the blood-stained wedding photo in my hand and lit one corner. Then I tossed the fiercely burning photograph lightly at her feet. This was my response to her. 3 months later, thanks to Zhou Lin's ruthless physical harm to me, I successfully obtained the marriage annulment decree. 2 copies. I kept 1 copy, and the other was sent to the prison on the outskirts of the city. Lin Zhou was convicted as an accomplice to intentional assault and sentenced to 3 years and 6 months in prison. Cheng Nie, as the mastermind, was sentenced to 10 years and 9 months. In addition, due to the severe negative impact of their actions, both had their medical licenses revoked by the National Medical Association and were ordered to pay me substantial compensation. For Lin Zhou, who came from a wealthy family, the compensation was merely a drop in the bucket. But Cheng Nie, who came from an ordinary family, found this compensation to be like a festering wound. It not only emptied his family's savings, but also made the 25-year-old a defaulter, completely ruining his life. As for the other accomplice, Little Sun, because she voluntarily surrendered herself and provided important evidence, she received a suspended sentence and chose to work abroad after her probation ended. As for me, after receiving the compensation, I moved away from this place of heartbreak and opened a small eyewear shop in her city. Because I had been an ophthalmologist, my optometry skills were exceptional. Business soon flourished, and I surprisingly earned even more than when I was a doctor. Plus, I didn't have to work overtime or night shifts. The various physical and mental traumas gradually healed through these simple, yet happy days. 2 years passed in the blink of an eye. Just when I had almost forgotten this painful past, an unexpected visitor suddenly came to my eyewear shop. She had a crew cut, her posture slightly hunched, her face filled with sorrow. Upon seeing me, her eyes immediately welled up. "Huayuan, I've asked around. You're still not married." "I knew it. You've been waiting for me. While in prison, I thought about you every moment. So I worked hard, focused on rehabilitation, and last year I saved a guard who had a heart attack. I was credited for my good deed and received a sentence reduction of 1 year and 6 months. Finally, I managed to see you before your birthday." Like a magician, she pulled out a large bouquet of roses from behind her back, and with a sincere expression, got down on one knee. "Huayuan, would you marry me again? This time, I swear, through sickness and health, I will cherish you in the palm of my hand until the day you leave me. Although I can no longer be a doctor, rest assured, with my family's inheritance, I can still provide you with a comfortable life, ensuring you never worry about anything. Me. In that moment, I wasn't angry, I just found it amusing. After spending 2 years in prison, it seemed like Zhou Lin's mind had become even less functional. Seeing the customers and staff around us excitedly whispering, and even many busybodies starting to shout, "Get together!" I frowned and reached out to take the roses. Zhou Lin's face lit up with joy, but the next second, I threw the flowers violently to the ground. "Zhou Lin," I said calmly, "what makes you think I would marry a convict like you again?" Convict. When these words came out, the customers and staff who had hoped to witness a happy moment all looked disgusted. "Seriously, sis, you should at least wait until your hair grows out before proposing." Exactly, I was wondering why she had that be. Us cut. Turns out she just got released. The boss might have a bad right hand, but he's rich and good-looking. Why would he marry someone who's been in prison? Zhou Lin's face turned red with anxiety. "No, it's not what you think, I was because..." Her words came to an abrupt halt. She certainly couldn't tell everyone that she was my ex-wife, who had sacrificed my health and future for her student, resulting in her imprisonment and the court ruling our marriage invalid, which is why she was proposing to me again. "What do you mean Are you trying to sexually harass him? Quick, call the police." The look in her eyes suggests she wants revenge on society. Soon, Zhou Lin was driven out by everyone. Even the bouquet she had given me was thrown to the ground by many hands and trampled into a mess. She stood stunned for a long moment, and finally, with her head lowered, she left. But I knew she wouldn't give up so easily. Sure enough, a few evenings later, I was watching a TV drama when I suddenly heard someone shouting downstairs. Looking out the window, I felt utterly annoyed. It was Zhou Lin again. She stood in the middle of a heart shape formed by candles, arms raised high, shouting something up at me. This scene was familiar. 10 years ago on our university campus, right before graduation, she had stood below my dormitory just like this, proposing to me. That was probably the happiest day of my life. I'll always remember rushing out of my dorm, running downstairs, throwing myself into her arms, and holding her tightly in that moment. Before, thinking of this scene would make my heart ache. But now, my heart was calm as still water. It's all just life experience, happiness or sorrow, nothing really matters that much. After some thought, I filled a basin with water, opened the window, and without hesitation, poured it down. The candles were extinguished by the water, and Zhou Lin was soaked through. As the cold wind blew, she trembled from the chill. "Why Yuan?" I didn't give her a chance to finish speaking before forcefully closing the window. This was my answer to her, hoping she would understand. It didn't matter if she didn't understand because I had already booked a flight ticket to another city. China is so big. If I can't confront her, I can at least avoid her. I'll just consider it a vacation. Later, I occasionally heard some news about Zhou Lin. They said that when she couldn't find me, she went crazy, ran to the prison making a scene, shouting that she wanted to kill Nie Cheng, and was consequently detained for several days. After being released, she still wouldn't give up, wandering around like a headless fly, asking everyone she met if they had seen me, clearly having gone mad. Later, after several years, Nie Cheng received a reduced sentence and was finally released from prison. But just as he walked out of the prison gates, before he could even take a breath of free air, he was hit and rushed by a speeding Rolls-Royce, his brain splattered across the ground, dying instantly. The driver who hit him was none other than Zhou Lin. She laughed maniacally at Nie Cheng's corpse, then lunged forward, digging at his brain tissue with her bare hands, babbling insanely about giving compensation to her lover. When bystanders asked her who her lover was, she gesticulated wildly and said his name was Su Huayan, the best man in the world. But times had changed, and in that city, no one remembered Su Huayan anymore. At the very end, I remarried, what a kind-hearted woman, had a beautiful daughter, and later adorable grandchildren. Once, while visiting the cemetery to pay respects to a friend's wife, I saw a tombstone with the name Zhou Lin engraved on it. Oh, that person? She died after having a mental breakdown and prying open her own skull with a knife, bleeding to death. They say that before her last breath, she kept muttering, "Husband, husband." But everyone says she was just an old spinster. What husband? It was probably someone she imagined. I stared at that grave. After a long moment, I bent down and offered her a white chrysanthemum.